Welcome to tonight's class. We are recording, but nobody will be on the recording except for me. So don't worry about that. So tonight we're going to be talking about paying for college. And for a quick quiz, how much did the average family pay for college in 2020? So the average family in 2020, sorry about that, paid about $33,200 according to the College Board. If we're going on and you have any questions, please feel free to type them into chat or unmute yourself and go ahead and ask them. And so in 2020, the average family paid about $33,200 in college fees. And the breakdown of where those costs were covered is scholarships and grants is about 35%. Parent income and savings is about 23%. Student loans is about 19%. And then student income and savings is about 11%. So we have some college savings plans, not we as the bank, but the country has some college savings plans. So if you're planning well enough in advance, you can create a college savings plan or a prepaid tuition plan. Likely, if you are already thinking about sending your student to college within the next couple of years, that is past the point where we can worry about that, but we're just going to touch on it. A 529 college savings plan works much like a Roth 401k or Roth IRA by investing your after-tax contributions in mutual funds or similar investments. And then the 529 college savings plan offers several investment options from which you get to choose. The 529 plan account will go up or down in value based on the performance of investment options. So this is something that you would absolutely have to talk to a financial advisor about because it's not something that you can do on your own. You need some help opening one of those. You can, depending upon when you start it, the financial advisor will also help walk you through your level of comfort in the types of investments that you're choosing for that portfolio. The 529 tuition plan lets you prepay all or part of the costs of an in-state public college education. They may also be converted to use at private and out-of-state colleges, but again, that is something that you are going to have to work with that financial advisor on because it's not something that you can do on your own. And the private college 529 plan, it's a separate prepaid plan for private colleges and is sponsored by more than 250 private colleges. The unfortunate thing about this is that the good time to start saving for this is when your child is a baby and you may not necessarily know whether they're going to be doing an in-state or public education or a private college, or even if they're going to be going to college. So really speaking to a financial advisor is important because making sure that you're doing the correct thing for your financial situation is really important. Grants and scholarships is another option. Both scholarships and grants for college are free money options to help you pay for higher education. The biggest difference between college grants and scholarships is that grants for colleges are typically need-based, while scholarships may be need-based or merit-based. And what does merit-based mean? It means the scholarship is awarded based on something that you do, such as an ability or a hobby or an achievement, versus that it might be need-based, meaning that you are financially eligible for it. So there are definitely multiple options as far as your ability to choose whether you're getting scholarships and or grants. And some of them are need-based and some of them are merit-based. And so you just have to find out which ones would work for you. Grants, colleges, states, and the federal government do give out grants. These do not need to be repaid. And most are awarded based on your financial need and are determined by the income that you reported on your FAFSA, your free application for federal student aid. And we're going to talk a lot about the FAFSA coming up, but it's really important that you get that filled out so that you can be eligible for grants and scholarships. Federal Pell grants are capped at $6,095 a year, and most go to families who earn less than $30,000 annually. The average Pell grant was about $4,160 in 2018 and 2019. There are thousands of private scholarships out there from companies, nonprofits, and community groups. These you would not necessarily have to fill out the FAFSA in order to be eligible for. Filling these out are important, and they're going to be in addition to what you might be awarded by filling out your financial aid packages. Chelsea Groton has Chelsea University, which is our online e-learning platform, and we do have a scholarship search tool there. It allows you to search for scholarships based on academic area, the level of schooling that you're in, and different eligibility requirements. There are so many scholarships, and they are organized by order of when they come due first. And to get to that, you go to chelseagroton.enrich.org/scholarships. There's no need to write this down. I'm going to send a follow-up email out to everybody with a copy of this recording, as well as the links that I'm going to provide to you in this presentation. Government college loans. So the government loans should really be kind of a last option, but they're often inevitable if scholarships, grants, and savings don't cover the entire bill. The typical family loan uses about 20% of their college costs as a loan. So this is a really important reason to fill out the FAFSA, because in order to be eligible for a government loan, you have to fill out the FAFSA. Most families, between what financial assistance the schools are willing to provide, other grants and scholarships, are able to cover about 80%, and so the loan is ends up being about 20%. But that has to be on a case-by-case basis, because every family is different. And some families may not be able to cover the other things. Some families might not need a loan at all. So it's really important just to be, looking and making sure that you're filling out everything, and then being able to choose what you need. A PLUS loan. So this is a Parent PLUS loan. It allows parents to borrow to help their child pay for college. The PLUS loan does require a credit check, which the government student loan does not. It doesn't, because most students don't have really a credit history by the time that they're applying for college, and some of them might not even be 18 years old. The Parent PLUS loan does require a credit check though, and they do come with a higher interest rate. The school will determine how much a parent can borrow, but the amount is supposed to cover the cost of attendance minus any other financial aid that you get. So while the government student loans are tied to the student, a Parent PLUS loan is tied to the parent, if that makes sense to everybody. So student loan debt. Student loan debt in the US reached another all-time high of 1.6 trillion as of February the 3rd, 2020. That's an increase of 116% in 10 years, and it represents one of the country's most significant and widespread financial burdens to date. Americans carry on average about $35,359 in student loan debt, and that's a 26% increase in 5 years and a 2% increase compared with the first quarter of 2018. So not all of the 2020 data is out. So this is the 2019 data. The numbers are from 2018. So, we've talked about, different ways that we can help pay for college with scholarships and loans and grants, Parent PLUS loans and student savings plans. But typically, families and students have to take at least a small loan. So how do we minimize that loan debt that we as parents are taking on, or that our students are taking on? One is choose your college carefully, right? So a lot of students make a choice of college because that's where they're desirous of going. They don't really consider the financial burden it might put on them. So really be looking at the cost of the college as one of those high ticking points. That does it check that checkbox. Estimate your college costs, your tuition, your board, and your books, your meals, and your transportation. Because when you're talking about what do I need my loan to cover, the options are wide and varying. So, estimating how much everything is going to cost you will help you make sure that you're able to cover everything that you think that you're going to need, and you don't leave yourself in a bad place when not thinking about, oh man, we didn't consider books, meals, and transportation, and he was going to take on a job, to cover entertainment and doing those types of things. But now that is going to have to go to books, meals, and transportation because we didn't take that into account. Maximize your other funding sources, grants, scholarships, and savings. So savings, if you have a student going into college within the next couple of years, maximizing your savings might be a little bit hard starting now. If you're starting earlier, you definitely have much better odds of being able to save up some more money. But if we're talking about in the next couple of years, looking at your budget, finding out, if you can put a couple of more $1,000s away a year until they're there, that might help. But really maximizing those other funding sources. Scholarships can be a pain to look for and apply for, but it's absolutely worth it in the end. And not looking at apply for everything and not say, well, this one's only $500 or this one's only $200, because $200 and $500 scholarships can help you with the cost of the books and the transportation and things like that. And those scholarships will add up if you can get a lot of them. Get a side hustle. So maybe a part-time job. The thing that I caution about this is that you don't want to think that you're going to work, a 40-hour work week in addition to going to school. You're paying a lot of money to go to school, so you want to be able to focus on that. You don't want to get bad grades because you're not able to focus on your schooling. So having that side hustle, that part-time job, be a major funding source for your ability to attend college might be a little bit problematic. Students do it all the time, so it's not unheard of, but they really have to buckle down and be able to focus on both school and work, which for some students might be a little bit more difficult. Budget your living expenses, because saying that you're going to go and just stay in your room is not realistic probably for a college student, right? They're going to go out and do things. Making sure that they know what their budget is for those expenses and those activities is really important. You don't want them going out and blowing an entire month's worth of eating out and movies and gas money in the first 2 weeks, because they're not really understanding the budgeting behind that. Borrow only what you need. So oftentimes with colleges, with loans, sometimes they'll offer you more than you need to make that gap between the cost of your tuition and what the scholarships and the grants are going to cover. Your loan might extend you more money to help cover things like books, meals, and transportation. But you don't really want to do that, because you don't want your college student spending loan money on going out for pizza and the movies, and then be paying for pizza and the movies 20 or 25 years later. That just doesn't make sense. So borrow only the amount that you need to cover that gap. Let that side hustle, cover those outside expenses. Understand your payments before you sign. So you would never go out and buy a car without understanding, what is the cost of that car, what is my loan going to be, and what are my monthly payments going to be. None of us would do that, right? We go to a car dealership, we're haggling with them, we're getting the best possible deal, we're making sure that we can afford those monthly payments. But a lot of times we don't think about that when we go to college. We don't think about what is our monthly payment going to be for this loan that I'm taking out? What is it going to cost me over the course of 4, 6, 8 years, depending upon how long you're going to be in school? So understand how much and what those payments are going to be before you sign. They should be able to monetize that for you. They'll be able to tell you, that you have this first year is X amount of dollars, year 2 will be X amount of dollars, year 3 will be X amount of dollars, and then you can figure it out from there. And the important thing to know, why you might want to know that, is that you're also going to want to, number 8, know what your salary expectations are. So if we're looking at majoring in something, what are our salary expectations? Are the salary expectations going to be able to cover that monthly loan payment? So a lot of times what people find, especially if they've spent a lot of time getting a master's or a doctorate, is that they're starting at a starting salary that might be a little bit lower, but their loan payments are very high because they have, 6 or 8 years of college under their belts, sometimes 10 or 12, depending. So if their debt is high, what are their monthly loans going to be? And is your salary expectation going to be able to cover those loans? And keep tabs on your borrowing. So every year you're going to have to re-sign those loan documents. So it's really important to have that conversation with your bursar's office at your college to know how much are you signing for this year? How much did you sign for last year? And then every year you are may need to reapply for new scholarships, maybe reapply for new grants. Sometimes they don't necessarily roll over, and some scholarships that you might get might be a one-time thing. And so for year 2, you may need some additional financing. So making sure that you are really keeping tabs on how much you're borrowing, how much is coming in scholarships, and how much is being covered in grants, how much can you cover each year with savings, and are you doing any like work study programs? That being said, students can probably do some work study on campus, and they're typically part-time jobs on or nearby campus for eligible students, depending upon their finances and the funding available at the school. You have to have applied for the FAFSA in order to qualify for the work study. When I was in college, I did some work study programs. They were great, but that's something that you need to have filled out the FAFSA in order to be eligible for. Work study jobs pay students directly at least once a month. So undergrads may earn hourly wages, but the amount that you earn can't exceed your work study award for the year. So the amount should be included in your financial aid award letter that gets sent by the school, or as you'll be able to see on your FAFSA, if you're eligible for work study and how much that might potentially be. It's really important, and there are things that you're going to have to look at. So when you get those acceptances for college, that's amazing, but you also have to look at that award letter that they send you. How much tuition is going to be for you? How much are they going to be covering? And then, what else fills in? Grants, scholarships, work study might be a part of that. If your student doesn't want to do work study, you're going to have to, a lot of times colleges, the way that they bridge the gap is with work study. So you may have to take a look at that award letter and say, all right, well, my student didn't want to do work study, so we're not eligible for this $2,500 or whatever it might be. And where is that going to come from if we don't do work study? So then you're going to add it all up, right? So according to the College Board's trends in student aid data, so for 2018 and 19, because again, we just started 2021, and so they haven't published the full report yet. Undergraduate students received an average of $15,210 per that's full-time education hours in financial aid. $9,520 in grants, $4,410 in federal loans, $1,210 in education tax credits. That is going to go to the student or the parents, depending upon who's carrying the student at that time, who is applying for the loan. You're going to have to work that out. $70 in federal work study. $70 is not a lot of money. So, that's something that you're definitely going to have to take into account. So if you add all of this up, this would cover the cost of your college for 1 year. So as you can see, when you're talking about the cost of college, they might get, a chunk in financial aid from the school, grants, but they're going to may have some in loans, and then education tax credits and work study. So it doesn't all come from one place. It comes from a bunch of different places. And making sure that you know and you're comfortable with where those amounts are coming from is really important. So community college. I always like to discuss community college because a lot of students really kind of balk at it. So if you're commuting to school and living at home is an option, it can save you a lot of money. The average cost for room and board is $10,440 at a public college and $11,890 a year at private institutions. And that can be just as much as the cost of tuition at some schools. And that's just for room and board. So you're talking about, if it costs you $15,000 to attend the school plus an additional $10,000 to be able to live there, now you're at $25,000, and only half of that is the cost of the education. The other half is living expenses. But if your finances are stretched really thin, it might be worth exploring enrolling in a community college before transferring to the four-year school later. Tuition and fees at the average community college cost about $3,520. So thinking this through, why do students balk at this? They do not want to say that they went to a community college, which is absolutely fine. But a lot of times, and you just have to make sure that credits are transferable. Credits are so much less expensive at a community college than they are at even an in-state college, like for Connecticut would be UConn or Eastern or something like that. But it's so much less expensive. If you could get those mandatory classes out of the way at a community college, those Englishes, those maths, those things that you're required to take that have nothing to do with your college degree, even spending a year at community college, you could save $20,000 or more just by attending a community college for 1 year and then transferring. What students don't really think about is that you're getting a diploma from the college that you graduate from. And once those credits transfer, it doesn't say that you went to a community college for your first year. It just says that you graduated from UConn. So nobody knows that for the first year you attended community college and you paid, significantly less than other students who took the same classes at a public college or at a state college. So we've talked a lot about the FAFSA. What is the FAFSA? So the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. And it's the form that you need to fill out to get any financial aid from the federal government to help pay for college. Each year, over 13 million students who file the FAFSA get more than $120 billion in grants, work study, low interest loans from the U.S. Department of Education. So it's really important to fill out the FAFSA because even if you do not intend on taking any federal aid, you should fill it out anyway because the colleges are looking at that information. Even if you don't think you're eligible for any kind of aid, you may be surprised what you might be actually eligible for. So don't not fill it out because you think that you're not eligible, and this is not something that your students can do on their own. They're going to need your help with it. It's a lot of like tax information and things like that. So the parents should probably fill this out. If you're divorced or were never married, only one parent needs to fill it out. So one household needs to fill out the FAFSA, not both households. So for example, my ex-husband and I are divorced, and when our student filled out the FAFSA, my ex filled out the FAFSA with his financial information and not my financial information. So you just need one parent to do that, unless you're still a combined household. So FAFSA facts. Submitting the FAFSA is the most important thing you can do if you want financial aid. The FAFSA is free. You do not need to pay anybody to prepare it for you. So like one of the biggest scams out there is that somebody will fill out the FAFSA for you. So you don't need somebody to do that. There's videos and things that will walk you through how to get it done if you're confused. I wouldn't pay anybody to do it for you. You're going to have to get them that information anyway. You need to submit a new FAFSA before each academic year in which you want to get aid. So if your student is going to college for 2021-2022 school year, meaning that they will be entering college in like late August, early September of 2021. The FAFSA for this year opened in October. So you really need to get that filled out. So if they're going in for 2021-2022, they will also have to you will have to submit the FAFSA again for the next academic year when it's time to apply again, if you want it. So what I would recommend is if you fill out a paper copy, or even if you do it online, to print a copy so that you can have a guide to help you fill it out each consecutive year. Be sure to use a permanent email address on the form and not your school email, so you can use your FAFSA account throughout college. So you'll be able to log in. But the mistake that some students make is that they start filling out the FAFSA at school with a guidance counselor or somebody helping them prepare to get ready for college, and they use their high school email, which then gets wiped from the books. So they then can't access their FAFSA account for their sophomore, junior, and senior year of college because that email does not exist anymore. So make sure that you're using a personal email to do it and not a school email. Completing the FAFSA is one of 6 steps that you need to take to qualify for a $40,000 board opportunity scholarship. So if that you think is something that you would be interested in, you do have to make sure you're filling out the FAFSA for that. You qualify for a $1,000 college board opportunity scholarship just by submitting the FAFSA. So if you do it, even if you don't think you're eligible, you automatically qualify for $1,000 just for filling it out. So who should fill it out? Anyone planning on going to college should fill out the FAFSA. Each year, millions, sometimes billions of dollars in federal aid are left on the table by students who didn't file a FAFSA. It's simple. If you don't file, you don't qualify for financial aid. And then if you should definitely file. Your family doesn't have to have a low income to qualify for assistance. Even if your family makes $200,000 a year, you could be eligible for aid. You automatically qualify for a low interest federal loan when you submit a FAFSA. These loans are less expensive to pay back than many private student loans. So, the low interest federal loans right now, for sure, I think they're at, about 3%. But to be honest with you, other lending is so low right now. It may be interesting to find out about a personal loan since the interest rates right now are so low. Many work study programs require the FAFSA. So if your student plans on doing a work study program, they should absolutely fill out the FAFSA. And some merit-based scholarships require that the FAFSA to help them determine the scholarship amounts. So, you know, it definitely makes sense to do that. So how do you fill it out? There are 3 ways to complete and submit your FAFSA. So one is online at ed.gov. With the My Student Aid app available on iTunes and Google Play. So if you want to do it from your phone or your iPad, you absolutely can. Or you can print out and fill it out with a pen and then mail it to the address on the form. The one thing that I do mention is, and I talked a little bit about it before, if you fill it out online at ed.gov, it's going to save that for you. It's going to create an account for you, and year after year, because this is something that's going to have to get submitted yearly to be eligible for funding for the next year, it's going to save that account for you. So all of your information is going to be there. I really recommend doing an account. If you're not comfortable with it, if you're not tech savvy, you know, that's fine, but you can print it out and fill it in. But really, I do think that doing an account either with the My Student Aid app or at ed.gov is probably everybody's best bet. So when do you fill it out? So you can file it as early as October 1st for the following academic year. What I will tell you is that it's a good idea to submit the application as soon as possible, because financial aid is often first come, first served. So getting that in and you know, ready is super important. So if your student is not attending college for the 21-22 school year, for example, if your student is a junior this year and then next year would be a senior, this coming up October 1st is the time that you would fill out the FAFSA for your student, for your senior, to be eligible for college financial aid for the following year. So it's really important to do that. It's not, you know, it's not saving you anything by waiting. You're going to get the same financial aid if you wait, but you may actually be awarded more financial aid if you apply early. When do you fill it out? There are 3 types of FAFSA deadlines. College deadlines. So it's important when you're applying for aid from a college. Deadlines vary by school, so check the college website or contact their financial aid office of the colleges that you're interested in to find out when you need to submit the FAFSA. So definitely check with them, because the college uses your FAFSA to determine how much money they're going to provide you with. So that's really important. State deadlines. So this is important when you're applying for aid from your state. So Connecticut's deadline is midnight on February the 15th. And the federal deadline. The federal deadline is June 30th, and it's the last day that you can apply for financial aid for the following academic year. So for example, June 30th of this year, if your student is a senior and graduates in June of 2021, the end of that June is the last filing date that they can submit their FAFSA. So if they're a senior and if they're graduating this year and you haven't already filled out the FAFSA, you definitely need to do that. That would be my caution for that. And so what are some common mistakes? Not talking to your student. So Having a heart-to-heart with your student about what the reality of what you can contribute and what their responsibility will be is really important. So, you know, a lot of students are like, listen, I got into Yale, I'm going to go to Yale. You know, I know that I didn't get a lot of financial aid, you know, X, Y, and Z. Having that conversation with your student about the cost of going to a school like Yale with no financial aid is definitely, you know, a conversation worth having. You know, is that as important to them as the burden that they may graduate with? Equating the price or name with quality. You shouldn't borrow more simply to attend an expensive college or a college with a recognizable name. Instead, you've got to weigh the cost and the benefits of the college with your family's financial situation. Again, it goes back to number one, talking with your student, what's important to them. Are they okay with that loan payment that they are going to be burdened with for the next potentially, you know, 20 or 30 years? And this is a mistake that often happens, jeopardizing your own financial future, meaning the parents. Too many parents count on playing catch up with retirement contributions after they pay for college. So, you know, withdrawing money from, you know, a 401k or an IRA or some kind of retirement plan to pay for college, playing catch up on that afterwards sometimes might be a burden. I wouldn't do anything like that without talking to your financial advisor or a financial advisor. You may find that that it would be a huge risk for you and your retirement planning. So we do have some other resources. There is an article on our chelseagroton.enrich.org, and again, I'm going to provide that link for you in my follow-up email. Setting expectations, how to talk to your child about paying expenses while you're in college. It's just an article you can read. There is an article about how to fill out the FAFSA and a video introducing the financial aid award letter, which is important. So you fill out the FAFSA and then you get your financial aid award letter, and interpreting that letter is also important. All right, I've thrown a ton of information at people. And so now I am happy to field any questions that you may have about paying for college. You can feel free to unmute or, you know, type something in chat, and I'm happy to answer any questions.